For years, an abandoned old mansion stood on the edge of the forest outside the village. Years ago, the owners of the mansion had become increasingly uneasy, and their feelings had changed in some way one evening. They were preparing to disappear the next night. As the next evening approached, the people in the mansion who encountered a figure suddenly felt a strong negative energy, so intense that time seemed to freeze, and they couldn't move with their consciousness intact. Their fear was so high that it threatened their very lives. When evening came, they left without looking back, leaving all their happy days behind, hoping to start a new life, and they saved themselves from the hidden forces of nature. Their neighbor, who used to go fishing with them, noticed they weren't there at 5 in the morning and tried to approach their house, but he felt it in his veins. His thin veins were trembling, and he couldn't get closer. When he realized they weren't around, he called out loudly, but there was no response. He felt very sad and thought they had died in the house and couldn't escape from this energy. He informed the villagers, and young Daniel, with his courageous heart, was very concerned about his beloved neighbors. It was said that ghosts and cursed beings roamed the mansion. One night, a brave group of young villagers gathered with courageous Daniel to break the mansion's curse and uncover the truth. They gathered at the front door under the pale light of the moon. Despite the creaking sound of the door, they entered. Inside it was cold, and the walls were covered with old paintings and dusty furniture. Despite his pale face, Daniel, undeterred, opened drawers and pressed on, challenging the energy. His hair was standing on end. The group continued to explore the dark corridors of the building. As they advanced, they began to hear strange sounds, footsteps, whispers, and eerie shadows. In one room, they saw the ghost of an old woman. The woman looked at them with a pale face and elderly eyes. She whispered, "Go away from here," and then suddenly disappeared. The group decided to venture further into this cursed house. With each step, they encountered more horrors. The old family portraits on the walls seemed to follow their every move. One of them saw a mirror and saw their reflection as a decayed face with pus oozing from it. Finally, the group reached the top floor and entered a mysterious room. The room was pitch dark, with only an old chair in it. A shadowy figure sitting on the chair emerged. This figure, composed of shadows, grinned terrifyingly and said, "You are here now." Daniel remained calm and threw himself towards the door, along with the door itself. He found himself on the floor, but his friends, almost being crushed as they fled, screamed in terror as they ran out of the house. Months passed, and with the arrival of curious visitors to the village, a center was established to investigate the matter. The house was declared inaccessible and off-limits, taken under the control of authorities, and surrounded by fences. Years passed, and authorities and good-hearted people never dared to venture there again, and the villagers heard no more about the curse of that old mansion. The mansion was still known as the House of Dreadful Ghosts and Cursed Beings, but no one had approached it anymore. However, one day, Daniel couldn't forget the stories he had heard about the old mansion. The idea of exploring this mysterious house kept growing in his mind. He gathered his courage and set out on the road to the mansion. When he stood in front of the door under the moonlight, he found himself in deep hesitation. But his curiosity and inner courage pushed him, and he opened the door. As he stepped inside, the house was quiet and empty. However, Daniel, who just wanted to meet that old woman, found real-world relationships boring and could feel a strange energy within the house. Daniel carefully began to explore the inside of the mansion. As he moved between rooms, he started to encounter strange sounds and shadows. He felt like someone was watching him at every moment. In one room, he heard the music of an old piano playing, but when he entered the room, the piano was silent. When he reached the top floor, he felt a strange vibration before reaching the room. When he opened the door, he entered that dark room and saw the mysterious shadowy figure sitting there. The figure said, "Welcome, Daniel," and smiled slightly. Daniel wanted to respond to the words of the shadow figure, but the words wouldn't come out of his lips. As the shadows closed in around him, Daniel's consciousness darkened, and he vanished with a sudden burst of light. He had thought he had lost consciousness. However, after a while, when he opened his eyes again, he found himself in a dark and eerie place. The surroundings were filled with mist and darkness, with strange echoing sounds around him. Suddenly, the shadowy figure reappeared, this time more distinct and realistic. "Welcome, Daniel," it said. "We are here now forever." Daniel wanted to ask who this mysterious figure was and why he was here. However, the figure responded to all his questions with only a smile. Daniel felt lost in this strange world and didn't know what to do. Understanding how time passed in this strange place was difficult because everything was shrouded in mist and darkness. Daniel frequently encountered the shadow figure but couldn't glean any more information each time. The figure provided only mysterious and vague answers, further complicating Daniel's predicament. Years passed, perhaps decades, and Daniel remained trapped in this bizarre realm. In this place where every day resembled the next, the meaning of time had been lost. Daniel began to struggle to distinguish what was real from what was a dream. However, one day, Daniel realized that the shadow figure was offering him some kind of choice. The figure presented him with the option of returning to the real world, but this time, it would come at a cost. Daniel accepted the shadow figure's offer and began preparing to return to the real world. However, the figure noted that it wouldn't be easy and that a price needed to be paid. When he asked what the price was, the figure smiled and said, "You must confront your own fears." Though Daniel wasn't entirely pleased with this response, he was ambivalent about his desire to return to the real world. The figure assigned him a series of challenging tasks to confront his fears. Each task required Daniel to address his inner fears and doubts. The tasks pushed Daniel to his physical and emotional limits. He struggled with courage and determination to overcome his fears. Over time, he grew stronger in confronting both the shadow figure and his inner world. When he finally completed the most challenging task, the shadow figure told him he could return to the real world. Daniel gladly accepted, and suddenly found himself inside the mansion again. However, this time, the mansion was quiet and devoid of any ghosts. Daniel took a relieved breath, feeling the weight of returning to the real world. When Daniel returned to the real world, he had come to appreciate the value of the special connection he had formed with the mysterious figure. He felt gratitude towards the figure for teaching him how to overcome his inner fears. However, both of them had no desire to share this unique relationship with others. Therefore, they kept it a secret, and when Daniel returned, the figure smiled and said, "What you have realized has elevated you to a higher state of being, but you don't want to stop, you want to become the person of the future. However, this will make you isolated and incomprehensible. Becoming the person of the future will be difficult, Daniel. We should make a secret agreement. You cannot tell anyone that you are an elevated being. There is no way to say it. When you say it, it will be perceived as arrogance. You cannot say that your objectivity and knowledge come directly from nature, from me. Do you accept?" Daniel agreed, and they decided to keep their relationship only between themselves. The mysterious figure occasionally guided Daniel in the real world. It helped him make difficult decisions and encouraged him. Through the guidance of the figure, Daniel began to live his life more consciously. Life and consciousness took on a different meaning for Daniel. He no longer saw those who merely existed within their routines as truly living. He could easily distinguish those who had a life from those who did not. The villagers noticed that Daniel had changed and become a braver person, but they didn't know the real reason behind this transformation. Daniel kept his relationship with the figure hidden from everyone, preserving this secret. Over time, Daniel began to grow into one of the village's elderly residents, and his relationship with the mysterious figure gave him the opportunity to explore the deeper meanings of life. This secret remained a special bond between them. The mansion still held its dark mysteries, and the villagers continued to tell the story of how Daniel had bravely faced his fears and changed. However, no one knew that Daniel had a secret guide or the nature of his connection with the figure. This secret remained a unique bond between Daniel and the mysterious figure, and they both cherished the value of this special relationship. For a long time, Daniel and the mysterious figure kept their agreement as a closely guarded secret and lived together. However, one day, this special arrangement was unexpectedly broken. Daniel wanted to share his relationship with the figure, as well as the agreement they had made. Desiring a closer connection with the villagers and wanting to share his experiences, Daniel decided to disclose the agreement he had with the mysterious figure. However, the figure vehemently opposed this idea and issued warnings. Daniel, believing that the villagers would be understanding, remained determined. When he met with the villagers and shared his experiences and his relationship with the mysterious figure, they initially reacted with astonishment and fear. However, Daniel's sincerity and the visible transformation in him began to sway them. But after this revelation, some villagers began to think that Daniel's mind had become confused. Some even claimed that he had truly gone insane, leading the village authorities to take notice. Daniel was forcibly sent to a mental institution. During his time at the mental institution, Daniel never forgot the mysterious figure and the experiences he had lived through. However, the hospital staff saw his stories as symptoms of madness and subjected him to treatment. The villagers were saddened by Daniel's confinement to the mental institution but decided not to communicate with him any longer. Daniel now carried the memories of the mysterious figure and his experiences only within himself. When Daniel was sent to the mental institution, he initially hadn't forgotten his relationship with the mysterious figure and the experiences he had lived through. However, over time, the challenging experiences in the hospital and the medications began to confuse his mind. It was during this period that the emotions of the mysterious figure underwent a transformation. The mysterious figure began to harbor particular animosity, especially towards the villagers who had led Daniel to this situation. It blamed them and was determined to seek revenge. Gradually, the figure started making plans to use Daniel as a tool against the villagers. During his time at the hospital, the figure began giving instructions to Daniel. Daniel started following the figure's orders, drawing the attention of the hospital staff. His behavior became increasingly peculiar and aligned with the figure's plans. The figure developed a complex plan to ruin the lives of the villagers and exact a terrible revenge on them. Guided by the figure, Daniel managed to escape from the hospital and return to the village to carry out the plan. When the villagers heard that Daniel had escaped from the mental institution and was coming after them, they were filled with great concern. However, Daniel's changed demeanor and behavior under the influence of the figure left the village residents feeling uneasy. When Daniel returned to the village, the realization of his elevated state of being calmed him down, and this time, he made a truly irrational decision to return to the hospital.